questions for oral answer. And the first question stands in the name of Nathan Guy.
Mr Speaker, to the Prime Minister, what tax changes has his government delivered today?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, from today, the threshold above which people pay 33 cents in the dollar rises from $40,000 to $48,000. This means that 80% of taxpayers will now face a top rate of only 21 cents in the dollar. A new independent earner tax credit will return $10 a week to people earning between $24,000 and $44,000 who do not receive any other type of income support from the government. In addition, the top tax rate drops from 39 cents in the dollar to 38 cents in the dollar. In total, Mr Speaker, 1.5 million workers will receive a personal tax cut today.
Nathan Guy.
Supplementary to the Prime Minister, what are the benefits of these tax cuts?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, well, many and vary, but the tax cuts we have delivered today will inject an extra $1 billion into the economy over the coming year, thereby helping to stimulate the economy during this recession. More importantly, over the longer term, these tax cuts will reward hard work and help encourage people to invest in their own skills to earn and keep more money.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, is it correct that low-income families with children will get nothing from tax cuts today, which is why he told high-income earners who get hundreds of dollars extra in tax cuts that they should give to charity in line with his trickle-down theory?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
No, it's not actually true. They get a Working for Families increase. Now that increase started on 1 October, but it's not true. But let me just make this one point, Mr Speaker, and this is that. Let's take somebody on $44,000 a year with 2 children. It's true that they get a small tax cut, but actually they don't pay, well, $44,000 they do, Phil, so do the maths, but they actually don't pay any tax. Someone earning $44,000 a year with 2 children pays 0 tax.
Nathan Guy.
Supplementary.
Nathan Guy.
How many people will be eligible for the independent earner tax credit?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the IRD estimates that around 630,000 lower-income earners will be eligible for this tax credit. To get this tax credit each day, people will need to change their tax code, so it is important that people know about their tax credit and they'll have to go about getting it. That is why we set a very modest advertising campaign with a budget of 1/40th of the amount that Labor set aside for the Working for Families advertising program.
Dr Russel Norman.
Speaker, how can it be good policy and how can it possibly be right to give large tax cuts to those earning $100,000 or more, like Cabinet Ministers and others, while those struggling on $20,000 will actually see their PAYE tax deductions actually increase today? And is it any coincidence that this is coming in on April Fool's Day, which might be renamed now Fool the Low-Paid Workers' Day, because they're actually going to end up paying more?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, we'll start off. We have a progressive tax system in New Zealand, so inevitably when you have adjustments it will affect higher income earners more. But secondly, I actually think that New Zealanders should acknowledge the fact that those high income earners actually pay a huge proportion of PAYE tax in this country. They work hard, they pay a lot of taxes. But nevertheless, the facts of life are today that 1.5 million New Zealanders are getting a tax cut and they didn't have to wait 9 years under a national government to get it.
That's right. That's right.
The Honourable Sir Roger Douglas.
Mr Speaker, does the Prime Minister agree with Professor Eric Leaper's statement in the latest Reserve Bank Bulletin that counter-cyclical fiscal policy could actually be counterproductive? And if not, why not? And if yes, why then is he borrowing $1 billion plus interest a year in order to give tax relief of $1 billion?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no. I don't agree with that statement, and the reason why we're having tax cuts at this time is because if you look at most of the stimulatory packages around the world, not just in New Zealand, a tax cut component as part of them, and that's an important stimulatory part of the economy. In my view, if we weren't to do that, we'd be driving our economy into a much deeper recession. Now, I acknowledge actually that Sir Roger Douglas and the ACT Party probably would want to have a much more contractionary position, but in my view, that would actually drive us into a deeper recession.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How can the Prime Minister possibly claim that his tax cuts are progressive when, as he can see from this, if you earn under $40,000, when you earn under $40,000 under National, you get nothing. But if you earn $1.5 million a year, you get $500 a week in tax cuts. How is that progressive? How can that possibly be fair?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, we have a progressive tax system. 1.5 million New Zealanders get a tax cut. Those who earn under $40,000 a year and get working for families, if they have more than one child, they pay no tax whatsoever. If they earn between $38,000 and $40,000, they pay a tiny bit of tax. So, Mr Speaker, ours is a very fair tax policy. New Zealanders haven't had to wait 9 years for it. And I think New Zealanders will welcome today, actually.
Rahui Katne.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, how do low-income New Zealanders benefit from the tax changes introduced today?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, they benefit because 630,000 New Zealanders, they are the New Zealanders that don't have children, and there have been relatively low-income New Zealanders who got absolutely nothing under a Labour government for 9 years, got absolutely nothing. They get $10 a week, $500 a year. It's a small start and it will be welcomed.
Nathan Guy.
Supplementary to the Prime Minister. Are businesses also getting the benefit of any tax changes?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes, a number of tax changes begin today which make it simpler and less expensive for small to medium-sized businesses to pay tax. These tax changes are worth $484 million to SMEs over the next 4 years. They include changes to GST, PAYE and FBT thresholds and temporary removal of this 5% uplift rate that businesses pay in advance on provisional tax instalments throughout the year. Mr Speaker, I've got to say there's been overwhelming support from the business community, small to medium enterprises, welcoming the tax changes, welcoming the reduction in compliance costs, frankly, welcoming a national government.
The Honourable Dr Michael Cullen.
Can the Prime Minister confirm, in the light of the last answer, that a business employing a person on the average wage, mean average wage, who is in KiwiSaver, today will have to pay that business another $960 a year in tax?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, well, they will pay more, but one of the... No, they will pay more at one level, and the reason for that is they actually pay less overall because they're not having to increase their payments to 4%.